Welcome back, everyone, to ABG Investor Days. My name is Henrik Hintze, and I'm an analyst here at ABG. One of the companies I cover is Berner Industrier, formerly known as Christian Berner Tech Trade. And with us now, we have the management of the company, CEO Caroline Reuterskiöld and CFO Henrik Nordin. Please, go ahead.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Yesterday was actually a big day for us because we switched our name. So we've been working under the name of Christian Berner Tech Trade since 2006. And we developed a way diverse group of independent, decentrally run companies. We realized that many people, including our own, often confused. We have 4 subsidiaries called Christian Berner with the group. So we realized it's time to switch a little so it's more clear what is the group and what is the subsidiaries. And to be honest, we can't blame Dagens Industri for shortening our name from Christian Berner Tech Trade to something shorter, but of course when you do so, it actually becomes a subsidiary instead. So, but even as important as external people, like the press or investors are, more important are actually our customers. And it was when we realized that customers sometimes walk in the wrong direction and end up in the group website with all the investor information instead of coming to the more important place where you can find customer information on our products and our solutions. That's when we realized we really need to change. So it's not so switched. We are very proud of our heritage and our name, and it sort of lives on in Berner Industrier in the future. Another thing, the trade portion in our name can sometimes be a bit confusing because it somewhat implies that we are a classic trade organization with a huge warehouse eking a living out of buying things cheap and selling them more expensive. Not to say that we don't mind giving a good trade, but it's a bit more advanced than that. So what do? We like to say that we're part of the solution of creating a better society or a more sustainable society. As I mentioned, we have over the years grown into a group of companies, each working to solve one or a few of the many challenges that we are facing at this very moment, be it access to sustainable energy, responsible use of water, or responsible use of materials overall. Often we do act as a distributor, for us meaning that we scout the markets for the best possible products out there and solutions, putting them together for a solution to our customers, often very complex issues. However, we have also products of our own, which are leading in their respect. On the right-hand side is actually the interior of an electric boiler from Sander & Ingeström. This is actually not the one that they're most famous for, because this is a simple low-voltage boiler, but that's the picture we got. This picture was taken by one of our engineers, Stefan, when he was making an FAT on site. Only lighten it up a little bit so you can see the impressiveness of the situation. This principle is very simple. Our MD for Sander & Ingeström used to joke and say, we boil water, which is true. We boil water into hot water and steam, which is used all over the process industry or in heat and power plants. And this has been done for years and years, of course. But the thing is, a lot of the times you do that through fossil fuels. So you burn a little oil or a little gas or something else, and then you heat the water, and then you use it. Nowadays, that's a bit old-fashioned. More fashionable is to use electricity. And very few companies globally are able to do that with high voltage the way that we can, or our subsidiary Sander & Ingeström can. So that means, of course, that for every boiler that Sander & Ingeström installs, there's less CO2 in the world. And meaning the world gets to be a better place. So that makes us very happy to go to work. Let me see if I can do it here. But we actually started out somewhere else. A young Norwegian named Christian Berner combined technological skills with a talent for languages when he was moving from Norway, or actually that was also Sweden at the time. We were moving from Oslo region to Gothenburg. And he realized, like many others at that time, that Sweden could benefit from the technological advantages elsewhere, outside of our little country that was not really at the forefront at that time. The car was just invented, the diesel engine was just invented, cathode ray tubes were invented. It was an explosion of technology at the time, and he realized he wanted to take it in. Though he went in for an area equally important for a young man on the West Coast at the time, which was a brewery business. So he started out with equipment and materials for brewery companies, and later branching out into dairy products, etc. Of course, this was by no means a very unique business idea. In fact, there were two other gentlemen named Mr. Bergman and Mr. Beving who would go on and do the same 9 years later. However, this man quickly took on the Nordics, and if you look at the years and you know your history, you see that this guy is quite adventurous, jumping into Finland in 1923, for instance. The first owned milk bottling machine was launched in 1936, and in the 1970s we branched out into new areas of technical plastics, pumps and instruments, etc., and continuing to build the group through businessmanship. The third generation took over in 1999, and introducing the group on a stock exchange, first on First North 2014, and then 2017 on the main market. And that also gave us the power and the muscles to make even bigger acquisitions. Before we made acquisitions for entering, getting more distribution. Now we could make standalone companies. So that's how companies like Sander and Inga and Swedenborg entered into our fold. Fast forward to 2022, myself and Henrik joined. And we have since augmented the governance model a little, increased the decentralization in the group, with other words. And part of the cultural shift actually involved moving the headquarters to Stockholm, and now the final shift in changing the name. So, why are we so excited about being here today? Well, for starters, we have diverse operations. We have exposure to several key sectors such as water treatment, energy production, sustainable industry. So that places us at the heart of the changes in society and the heart of the issues that we are facing at the moment. Our businesses have in common that they all have proven business models. We have high technical expertise, and often with a piece of service on the side. And our employees are very often highly experienced. Often they are seen as authorities within their specific fields. Our collective experience and in-depth knowledge is what helps us to keep our customers, keep production costs down, reduce resource and energy consumption, increase efficiency, and become more sustainable overall. We have a lot of connections out there, which makes us an attractive partner also for suppliers in that sense. So we have a constant curiosity around what solutions can be best used and can be quite nimble and fast-footed in terms of putting them together using experience. And then our portfolio also includes some leading products of our own. The boiler we just talked about. Swedenborg has world-leading dampers, I would say. I don't know if anyone will say otherwise, but I claim so. We'll go back into that. So that gives us a lot of interesting growth and profitability opportunities. Speaking of what Swedenborg actually does, here we have Linda with one of our bigger dampers. Dampers can be used in a lot of places, and one place where we actually use them can be in carbon capture. And carbon capture is not just about the pie in the sky of sucking out carbon capture out of the air. It's actually used in battery production, in other areas where you need super clean air and need to control what's in it. And Swedenborg is very interesting in this area because their dampers are by far the tightest in the industry. And why is that important? Well, if you have a tight seal, then you can reduce the need for a barrier air, which means that you can reduce the energy usage that you need all the time when you use that. So again, that's what we're trying to look for. First, the problem, solve it, and then try to make it slightly better. Another interesting thing is what Berner in Norway has done on the back of knowing a lot of companies out there. They've actually created a solution facilitating when you're using sludge. When you're drilling a tunnel, you're using water to cool the drill head, and you're also using water to keep all the dust and everything from flowing in the air, etc. And that water needs to be handled. And typically what you do is you take that water filled with, or sludge actually, and you put it in a tank and you drive it far away to a basin where it's sediments, and then you can use the water again. It takes a lot of time. The basins are quite ugly, and of course a lot of transportation costs. So what Christian Berner did was to create a mobile solution using several different products so that you can actually filter clean the water on site, reducing the need for transportation, reducing the need for ugly basins. We already mentioned that we have increased the decentralization in the group. And the first key element of being able to do so was what Henrik and Inga did just when we got in, was actually changing the organization and switching the business area setup. Because the business areas of yesterday were more product focused and cut through the company lines. And all of you who have done any kind of financial reporting know how difficult it is when someone wants to cut the cake in several different parts. It creates a lot of internal admin of allocating costs left, right, and center. And it's a nightmare to follow up and understand where value is created. So what we did is that we said in the eyes of decentralization, this has to follow business units, because each managing director of the company needs to be master of his or her own universe. So we rearranged the business areas to follow business lines. It doesn't actually mean that we have a lot of structure here. We don't have a lot of business area heads or anything. They're still just reporting straight to me and to Henrik. But it's much clearer, both from the outside for you guys to understand what we're doing, and it's immensely easier for us, both to make sure that our MDs are fully capable of driving their own destiny, and also to make sure that we don't do unnecessary internal admin. So we already talked about what Sander Ningeström partly does and what Swedenborg partly does, together with Bullerbekämpare, another small company that we added that works with noise reduction. They make up energy and environment. All of those are relatively recent additions. What you probably think about when you think about us is on the left-hand side, we have 4 units called Christian Berner, all founded more than 100 years ago, all of them, and still very much going strong. They are more active in distribution in very different areas, but they do have some own products as well. And we've added Empac recently, who works in reducing food waste through smart packaging, and actually also, while there is some waste, taking care of that. One example is just recently installed I would say a circular way of handling waste up in the north with Hurtigruten, where they grow their carrots up in the north of Norway, then they drive around with tourists, and then they take the food waste, they make it into fertile soil again to grow new carrots. To be simple, they probably have more than carrots in their food, but something like that. So all in all, we have 8 subsidiaries of various sizes and 2 relatively evenly sized business areas, but of course with different setups. Here we go, that one. So we talked about decentralization. So we really started focusing on that when we got in. That's very important. And it has gradually had positive effects. We see that profitability improves when the power of the subsidiaries is placed where it should be, and they can use their energy for business rather than internal administration. And that's actually contributed to having the highest results in the history last year, without any acquisitions, actually. It was all organic. But the journey doesn't stop there. We strive for each company to reach their full potential, which can be a little bit different for each of them. So clear management by objectives combined with room for entrepreneurship. In fact, now we actually touch upon something that is sacred to me personally, to say. almost. We are fully convinced that the best decisions are made where the information is the highest. And of course, that's very close to the customer, very close to the supplier. Additionally, we have several different business models in our group, all from larger projects into smaller deals, into constantly recurring businesses, etc. And that means that we have a few ways of steering, we have a few ways of follow-up, and we have a few optimums that we are looking for. You know, if all would have the same target, the bar would be set way too low for some, and for some way too high. And I'd say that both of those things are really bad. They're equally bad. Because you want to be stretched all the time, so you can't have a too low bar. But you can't put it too high either, because then you just give up. You don't try to strive for it. So it has to be exactly right for each company. And the picture on the right is from Mölnlycke. And I think that's a good way of illustrating what we're aiming to do. Because you need to be nimble in terms of uncertainty, and that we seen with times when the supply chains were hard, we had to increase stock, and then we decrease it again, so you had to be very flexible. And now we're touching about another strong aspect of our business that we're very excited about, and then I'm happy to give room to Henrik.
Thank you. Okay, so why Berner Industry? We are, with low investments needs in the existing businesses and a fairly reasonable leverage, cash can be used for acquisitions. And we have a decentralized governance model that makes us efficiently incorporate and take on the new acquired companies. It's also that our decentralized governance model actually is attractive for entrepreneurs when they have sold, so they can stay and to continue to develop the businesses. We have increased the sales by 9% over the last year since 2018. And last year, we increased the sales with 12% compared to 2022. Last year, we had all of that increase organically. The maintained gross margin during the recent time of high inflation underlines the business acumen we have among our employees, because our gross margin has maintained on a very good level during these hectic times. Moreover, our efficiency work with internal work and reducing administration has also supported the profit growth. So we reached 7.2% last year, actually 72% above 2022. As a group, we are light in investing in fixed assets, meaning our focus is on profit and working capital. These create clear objectives for each of the business units, so they can optimize the result, optimize the focus to find both profitability and efficiency in the working capital. We have a group target of 25% on return on equity. It's transferred over to separate company individual targets measured on EBITDA over working capital. Since working capital is fully managed, fully manageable by the subsidiary and lays in the hand, they can take the proper decision they need to do along the business. And the recent improvements are visible. You can see our figures have the right direction. And then with the legacy of these distribution businesses, acquisitions were mainly done by adding on more distribution rights and integrated into the existing legal entities. The shift, which took place until 2016. The shift came 2018 when Sander and Ingeström was acquired. Since Sander and Ingeström was of a larger size and different businesses and a very strong brand, this was a wise and good decision to remain with the legal entity. Since then, acquired companies has remained with the legal entities, and we have not acquired yet any company, but that's our also strong preferred main agenda, to acquire companies, keep the entrepreneurs, focus on delivering to customer, making results, and keeping the employees. And that's the responsibility of the subsidiary. Despite we have not acquired anything 2022 and 23, we are fully dedicated to this important part. Price is one of the reasons why we have not made any hit during this period. On the other hand, we have put our own house in good order, which you can see, and it's visible in the balance sheet.
So first, quick summary. We have established that we are in a good marketplace. We have a governance model in place and great cash generation. And lastly, but not least, we have stable and committed ownership. We have 3 larger owners with a long-term horizon, including the main owner in the 3rd generation, with the 4th showing interest. We have a management team with long experience from similar technology-driven, niche-focused, decentralized organizations and M&A experience in all of that. We have a set of relevant goals set by our shareholders to ensure growth, to ensure margin, as Henrik mentioned, to give you a return on equity of more than 25%. And of course, with a sound balance sheet, so 35% leverage. We are proud to be able to show development in all of these, to reach all but the margin target. But we're well on our way. We increased EBITDA by 72% last year, as Henrik mentioned. We're closing in. Well, actually, I'm not going to delve on this one, but it was nice. We have a good development on the stock exchange last year, and it is said that a prophet has little honor in his hometown, but we were actually mentioned in Göteborgs-Posten when they looked at the local companies and how they fared on the stock exchange last year. So with a 48%, which is much higher than the 15.5% in the market as a whole. And finally, the first quarter results we reported a month ago. It was somewhat hesitant decision-making that we saw in Q4. It spilled over a little bit into Q1 initially, leading to slower order intake, but increasing again towards the end. Fairly expected, actually, with all the talks about the interest rates and when are they coming down, etc. It's quite natural that they get slowed down. The underlying need is there, however. We are solving critical issues like modernization of Käppala and Henriksdal that I think a lot of us are affected by, or at least it's important to a lot of us. So what remains strong is our cash generation. We have worked systematically to strengthen our balance sheet and make sure that we unleash the cash generated in the business. So we had a cash flow of more than 3 times of last year in Q1 alone. And our net debt to EBITDA ratio is now below 0.5. This one calculated without the IFRS 16 effects, but it's quite low if you include that as well, for all of you who like to calculate and look at those things. So we think that these improvements are a testament to the potential that we see in the business as a whole. And that's what attracted Henrik and myself to the business in the first place. We see that we have great potential here, and we are happy to see that it's starting to show. So all in all, we see our group as more of an anchor, meaning that we are exposed to the underlying trends. And we bring the technological skills that are quite hard to pin down. Not the same technological skills as the guys out there, but the hands-on experience that is really hard to get because you can't get it from a chatbot. You have to You have to actually be there. You have to be there running those pumps, serving them, and seeing what actually happens when you run them. So we are very happy to be here in this place, and we hope that if there is any interest in us, then please feel free to ask questions.
Thank you very much for that, Caroline and Henrik. I'll sneak one quick question in here. You touched a bit upon it, but I was wondering if you could expand on the order intake situation. You've had a very nice trend with sales and margins growing over the past 2 years, but now order intake was a bit weaker in the past 2 quarters. How should we think about that vis-a-vis sales going forward?
Yes, I'd say so far we've seen. To start off, we actually come from a situation where we had record high order books in 2022 when supply chains were hampered. So for us, it's been a bit nice to be able to eat off a little bit of backlog that's been there because of delivery things. So we are not sitting with any empty order books now, or any worry of that kind. We saw it as quite inevitable and not surprising to see that slow down. It's only natural when you have a lot of uncertainties in the markets, especially if you're expecting an interest rate lowering. It's natural that you wait with the decision. Or if it's been going upwards, you have to then return and get a new decision, etc. During that. So we're not overly worried, but of course we look around us and we try to figure out what's going on. But so far, what we've seen has mainly been postponements of orders, not that they've been cancelled or that they've gone to someone else.
All right. Thank you very much for that. I think that's all we have time for.